It looks like tennis, but it's not. This is actually the fastest growing sport in Europe at the moment. It's part tennis, part squash, all chaos, and it's taking over the middle class. No one can agree how to pronounce it. This is Padel or paddle tennis. Let's check it out. Welcome to a paddle tennis court. It looks a little bit like tennis, except it's enclosed. It's got some glass, some cages, there's a net in the middle, and some lines on the floor. But how do you actually play? What is it, and why is it so popular?
Padel is a fast-paced, strategic racket sport that combines elements of tennis and squash. It's typically played in doubles on a smaller court enclosed by glass and metal mesh. The court measures 20 meters long by 10 meters wide. That's about 1/3 the size of a tennis court. When the ball bounces on the ground, it can then rebound off the back or side walls and still be in play. But if you smash the ball into the opponent's wall on the full without it bouncing, then you lose the point. So it's not really a game of power, but one of finesse. A point plays out much like tennis. It even uses tennis scoring. But there's one key difference: the use of walls as a unique layer of tactics and positioning. Padel is almost always played in doubles. The smaller court, enclosed space, and long rallies make it a highly sociable and accessible game. Easy to start, hard to master.
So these are your weapons when you're playing. This is a paddle racket, not a paddle, a paddle racket. It's got these holes in it so you can whiff it through the air like this, and you hit the ball, and it sounds a little bit like a gunshot, which is kind of cool. You also have the ball, which is like a tennis ball, but it's not quite a tennis ball, maybe because there's money to be made, maybe because the court is smaller, but the ball is pretty similar and it bounces off everything. You also have this cage over here. And the cage is really interesting because it's got these it's ill-defined, so the ball can hit it and bounce in many different directions. If you hit the cage on the full, you lose the point, but if you hit it over the net and it bounces into the cage, it can go anywhere, and that's a really good shot. We'll see more of that later. So when you're playing paddle tennis, right, you've got your paddle, as we've spoken about. Look, oh, hang on. Look how it's attached to my wrist. That's for safety, so you don't wang it into someone else's face, which does happen. Oh, there you go. If I hit it like topspin, like tennis, for example, you watch what happens to it. I'll ping it over. It bounces up off the glass like that, which makes it quite easy to get. Whereas if you backspin it, it just kind of like dies at the back like that, which is a much better shot. If I come in, do a couple of volleys. So once again, simple stuff. It's very easy to overhit this. So if you really swing at it, like if you come from tennis or something like that, you smack it and you'll smack it well out. Whereas it's really just that kind of controlled. If you've seen my other videos, you know that I love hitting things as hard as I can. So for me, this game has been quite hard to get my head around because it's a lot about stability. Be safe, make sure it goes in, because if it goes in, they'll probably make the mistake. However, sometimes you just really want to get involved. You know what I mean? So let me show you the serve. So the serve is really easy. You go to the diagonal side, you've got to bounce the ball first, and then you have to hit it below your waist, which is actually about your belly button. So it's a bit higher than some people think the waist is. You bounce it, you hit it, it's got to go over and land in the other side. If it's long or short or goes in the net or hits the cage, you get a second serve. Bounce and hit. What a serve! You also use the walls a lot. So for example, what I can do is I can rebound it off the wall onto the other side, like this. And that is quite a fun shot. I should say one of the other interesting facets of this sport, while Christian over here is trying to do a backhand smash out the court, but just missing the ball entirely, is that he's trying to get it out the court. Now, if you do end up, oh, he got it out the court, amazing. But if you do get it out the court, one of the cool things in paddle is that you can actually run out the court through this, come outside the court, run out here, knock it back in, and the game continues. Now, have I ever done that? No. Does anyone apart from professionals do that? Probably not, but it looks really cool.
Sport that I enjoy playing. It's one that I have fun playing with my friends, and it's, you know, I think also it's a good sport for kids to get into as well. You know, it's slightly more forgiving.
I think it's a game for everyone. Like I say to people, I could go play paddle with my dad. I couldn't really go play tennis with him, but you know, we could pick up a paddle bat, go play and have a good game.
Padel's history begins in the late 1960s, but its roots can be traced back even earlier. Sports like tennis, platform tennis, popular in the US and one I'll cover one day, and squash all contributed elements, court-based, racket-driven games that encourage strategic play in confined spaces. In 1969, Mexican businessman Enrique Casuera created the first paddle court at his home in Acapulco. Lacking room for a full tennis court, he built a smaller, enclosed version with walls to keep the balls in play, combining tennis rules with squash-like rebounds. Spanish aristocrat Prince Alfonso of Hohenlohe discovered the game while visiting Casuera and fell in love with it, and built the first courts in Marbella, Spain in 1974. From there, paddle spread rapidly through Spanish-speaking countries, especially Argentina and Spain, and over the past 5 years, paddle has exploded globally, particularly in Europe, the Middle East and Latin America. Today, an estimated 25 million people play paddle across more than 90 countries. In the UK, the sport has grown from a niche activity to over 500 courts and an estimated 150,000 players as of 2024, up from only a few thousand in 2018.
So I've now come to my paddle club. This is UK Paddle here at Homer Green, and I'm going to crash this coaching session with one of my coaches, Andy, who's going to tell us a little bit about some of the special shots that you do that kind of set this apart from squash and tennis, because you have forehands and backhands, but there's also all these other shots which sound a little bit like tapas, but actually they're really cool, and they let you do things like, you know, you own the front of the court in this sport, so they let you do that. They let it be either really aggressive or slow it down so you can get back and own that net. Let's say hi to Andy.
Because it's based on tennis, you know, you've still got the scoring of tennis, and you've still got forehands, backhands, volleys, overheads. I don't like to call them smashes like we would in tennis, because that indicates you're going to hit everything as hard as you can. Whereas in paddle, there's not a big benefits doing that all the time, because it'll just bounce off the glass. So there's different shots. When you're close to the net, you might hit a flat smash, a bit like a tennis player. Works quite well outdoors. You know, indoors you might be able to even pop it out. Here you can, I might pop it out of the court, I win the point. As I come further back, they've pushed me a little bit further back. I can still hit a vibro, which we talked about, which is that sort of snake, which, bit of pace, loads of spin. It's going to really make it awkward for them. As you get pushed further back, you might play a bandeja, which is a waiter, because when you finish the shot, it looks like you're holding a waiter's tray. Off to the side, bit of spin. The ball stays in the corner, means I can get back to my net position. And then you go further back, you have a gancho, which is a really soft overhead. Your only intention is to get the ball back in play as safely as you can. And then the last one, when I have been lobbed, and it's a fantastic lob, I let it bounce off the back glass. I might play a bajada, which is an overhead off the ground here like this. Strings, so you're not trying to whip this ball with loads of topspin. You're trying to get an advantage from your opponents at the net, make them play a difficult volley, and then maybe the next shot can be a lob, which in paddle is an attacking shot, unlike tennis where it's a last-ditch thing. In paddle, you're trying to play that lob to get the net. So yeah, you might, from this corner, I might play some hard shots like this, but anyone who's decent is going to be able to just put their racket in the way and play a good volley back. So instead I'll play a chiquita, which is a soft shot where it goes to their feet. So I might just play just like that. Oh, off the net. Just like that. So it just goes over the net, and they have to play this volley down here.
Singles. Can you play singles in paddle?
Yeah, there's a different court. Actually, Homer Green has got 2 courts at the moment, and they're building a 3rd doubles court, and they're going to build a singles court as well. Slightly thinner. So this is 10 meters by 20 meters. I think the singles court is 6 meters by 20. So actually when you go on it, it feels really narrow, and it is a different kind of sport. But what it does allow is for people to, you know, not have to put 4 people together to play. They get to practice together. And I think actually it could grow as a sort of completely different way of playing paddle as well.
Andy, how do you describe the sport and how you feel about it in one word?
Good question. Inclusive.
Inclusive. Love it.
And now for my final thought.
So there we go, thoughts and feelings of paddle. So obviously, I mean, I love it. I'm playing it an awful lot at the moment. I think it's really, really fun. And why? You know, why is it taking off so well? Because it's super accessible, right? It's really easy to start playing, and you know, it's very forgiving for new players to start giving it a go. You know, you can do stuff. It's fun to hit it off the back wall, and that's a skill that people want to learn, they want to build on. So there's always something to work on. You know, there's these tough shots that are overhead, there's hitting off the glass, there's these extra dimensions, which make it quite interesting. From a social point of view, I think it's great. It's doubles, so you're always on court with other people. There's a bit of banter flying around, especially at, you know, intermediate and club levels. Like, it's really fun. And if you go to some places, you know, they've got bars there, they have a beer afterwards. You know, the social side is really something impressive. Because it's glass courts like this, you know, really good for social media as well. So you would have seen paddle a lot in social media, a lot of that. Is because they have glass, and when they film it at the professional level, that means they can actually set the camera up in really good places. It's a problem which sports like squash have had, because squash films absolutely terribly because you need it to be more open than that, and paddle builds itself to being open. You know, you don't need glass courts. You can definitely do it with concrete and stuff like that, but then it's just an enclosed space. Having glass is good. It's not so good for actually playing on right now because that sun is right in my eyes and it's really glary. It's really difficult, but I suppose, you know, swings and roundabouts. And yeah, because it's easy and, you know, easy to get going, you're actually doing quite a lot of activity and exercise without really realizing it. So, you know, you would have seen things like Djokovic talk about, you know, is it going to take it over? Does tennis have to be careful? Well, you know, why are people taking up paddle? You know, I've already said a bunch of reasons, but there's other things that I think are at play as well. So I think, personally, this is me as someone who's worked in the sports sector for like 20 years, you know, there's a lot of difficulty in a lot of sports. If you don't carry on doing coordination things after you leave school, then, you know, sports like tennis are really hard. You want to start playing tennis as an adult, you want to start as an adult, forget it. It's really, really difficult. And if you hit the ball wrong, you've got to walk like 10 miles to get the ball. You want to play squash, that's also really hard to play. And what other sport? You have to warm the ball up for like 2 minutes? What the hell is that about? Whereas things like paddle, you can just get going straight away. It's forgiving, it's easier. It's the same kind of reason why pickleball's taking off, because again, it's super easy to get going. So this lack of coordination, which has led a lot of people into doing, you know, the gym classes have taken off, the Zumbas, the CrossFit, the spinning, stuff like that, which requires fitness and makes you feel great, but doesn't really require coordination. You know, at the moment when sports are dying, because a lot of sports are very difficult to come to as an adult, things like paddle and pickleball are doing really well because they're inclusive and they are good for people who don't necessarily have amazing coordination to start with, but they can build it through the game. And hey, maybe that even encourages them to then eventually play tennis and something like that. You know, that is the story that has to happen here, is that, you know, paddle and tennis, you know, need to work together. The traditionalism of tennis probably needs to open itself up to paddle and pickleball, if I'm honest. But although I say things like, you know, its barrier to entry as a player is not so high in terms of skill, if we're talking about inclusivity and accessibility, that's where this thing kind of falls apart. Because you will have seen on the news, paddle is down as being, you know, middle class, really hard to access, courts are expensive, rackets are expensive, balls die, so you have to buy new balls all the time. Like, it's quite a pricey hobby to get on with, and that's why the middle classes are doing it, because it's something they can get involved in, like golf and cycling, and get your lycra, get your clubs, you get your paddle. It's fun. But for me, as someone who works in sports development as well, and I, you know, if you don't know who I am, I champion one of the most accessible inclusive sports, one-wall handball or wall ball. That's just a wall and a ball. You know, I've had a few paddle organisations come to me and say, hey, Dan, you know, is there any way that we can get young people playing, you know, if they can't afford it, maybe we can do reduced rates. And I have to say things like, look, some of the people that we work with, they can't even afford the bus to a leisure centre, let alone even paying reduced rates on a paddle court. You know, this is not a game for the masses. This is a game for people who are well off enough to take a bit of time out, spend a ton of money on some rackets and enjoy like the social side. It's another racket sport, the tennis club, middle class upwards. That's where we're looking now. Maybe it'll become more accessible in the future, but at the moment, it's really not there. So there you go. It's not tennis, it's not squash, it's not pickleball, it's paddle tennis or padel. And now you know what the f it is. So take care. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.